difficult is this state visit going to be, given the fact that South Korea was obviously named in those leaked documents and the current president is facing a lot of pushback at home from the opposition?
Well, obviously, it's embarrassing to him, and it does sow some distrust for the United States in terms of keeping confidential and classified information classified. But frankly, I don't think most professionals are at all surprised about this. I don't think professionals within the South Korean government, including the president, are really surprised. Going back to 1929, the former Secretary of State, Henry Stimson, said, gentlemen don't read each other's mail. He then became Secretary of War during World War II, and they started reading people's mail. So we, for a long time, have known that we try to collect information on everyone, our friends, adversaries, enemies, everyone. Our but our main goal is to protect the American people. To do that, we have to have all-around knowledge, all-around vision, and look at everything that is happening, friends and foes alike. Our allies may have different interests from time to time than we have in the United States. We need to know that. We need to know what their plans might be that could compromise our own interests. So no one should be surprised about this. It is embarrassing because this is all conducted at a very high level amongst government officials and not the general public.
Well, once the cleanup is taken care of here, Mr. Secretary, there's some important conversations that need to be had here between these two presidents. Tomorrow, of course, they'll have the day doing that, and you'll, once again, as Annmarie mentioned, be a part of them. This is all taking place against the backdrop of a very difficult time right now with China, but it's, of course, right there on the peninsula where there is also a very important risk to be noted, and that's North Korea. To what extent should we be paying attention to Kim Jong-un right now while we focus largely on Beijing?
Well, we always have to pay attention to North Korea. It's a dangerous country. It continues to test missiles, the range, capability, speed, all of which we have to continue to watch. It's very difficult to deal with that country. And frankly, I don't think Russia or China have done enough to dissuade the North Korean leader from continuing to ratchet up the pressure by firing more and more missiles, many of which are passing over Japanese territory. So I think we have to watch it. There's very little we can do other than calling upon the Russians and the Chinese to be more aggressive in dealing with Kim Jong-un.
But how difficult is it right now for the United States to call the help of Xi Jinping when dealing with North Korea, given the fact that these are two leaders that are having a pretty difficult standoff right now? We don't see Secretary of State Antony Blinken going on his trip that's postponed. When's the next date he's going to Beijing? And obviously, there's a lot of friction between these two countries. So how difficult is that ask right now?
I think we have to take a step back and look at the Chinese and say, yes, they are a peer competitor to the United States economically and soon to be, if not already achieved, a peer competitor militarily. We need to do everything we can to lower the rhetoric, to lower the tension. I know that there's a lot of support from the Democrats and the Republicans looking at China as an adversary from a military point of view on the right and an economic point of view on the left. But China is not going away. It's a powerful country. We need to find ways and issues that we can agree upon, whether it's talking about energy security, water security, pandemic control, a host of issues we can agree upon, recognizing we're going to have difficulty dealing with the Chinese over Taiwan, the South China Sea, the East China Sea, all of that. But we can't afford to slip into a confrontational point of view with them to the point where a miscalculation, a mistake, suddenly we find ourselves head to head with the Chinese on a war footing. That has to be avoided at all costs. So I hope that the Biden administration will continue to pursue negotiations, behind the scenes discussions, and I hope that the Chinese will respond in kind. But we can't afford to go to war with China, and the world can't afford it. So that's something we have to focus on.
Mr. Secretary, Olaf Scholz has invited the Chinese premier to Berlin for talks next month. And following Emmanuel Macron's visit to China, there are questions about what the two power centers in Europe think about China's role in potentially negotiating peace in Ukraine. How do you see it?
Well, I think the Europeans take a different view toward China than the United States does at this point in time. I think it's very clear that they want to maintain a positive relationship with China. So it doesn't surprise me if they're reaching out to have China become some kind of a mediator in this conflict taking place in Ukraine. China will have difficulty being perceived as being independent and someone who doesn't have any interest. They have aligned themselves with Russia, and that poses a threat in terms of their independent judgment in terms of what they can bring about. I think China has a role to play, and I think we should welcome it if, in fact, it is seen as being non-political and certainly not in favor of the Russians. We need someone who is independent of both, and I don't know that the Chinese are prepared to do that. Nonetheless, anytime we can prevent a war from spreading and the kind of slaughter taking place in Ukraine, we should try to pursue it.
Joe's mention of Emmanuel Macron, Secretary, we just have to ask, did he undermine what the United States is trying to do, which is the Biden administration taking this multilateral approach, the same way they are conducting their policy of economic state warcraft, if you will, on Russia, that they want to do on China. But Emmanuel Macron says that Europe should have strategic clarity of their own right. They want autonomy. Is this going to set up a bigger battle across the Atlantic?
I don't think so. I think we've always recognized that the Europeans have their own interests to pursue. To the extent that it coincides with the United States policies, then that's a good thing. But they're going to look out for their own country's interests, and to the extent they feel their economic future and prosperity is dependent upon a positive relationship with China, they're going to pursue that, and we have to understand that. We can try and shape a global position for the Western countries toward China in order to try to make sure they don't use that new power they've accumulated in an adverse way. But I don't think we can call upon the Europeans to say, stay with us on this as you have with Russia, because Russia poses a direct threat to them. They don't have the same relationship with the Russians that they do economically with the Chinese. And so I think we have to recognize we're not going to be able to dictate to the Europeans what their policies are going to be toward China, even though we'd like them to be with us and solidify that relationship, that we're all talking on the same page and dealing with the Chinese. I don't think that's realistic to expect it.